Welcome to the Koyos Collective Podcast, New York Tech Week series. Today, we presented by the Front Yard at Pace University. Today, we're here with
Hi, my name is Tyce. I'm co-founder and CEO of Ulama.
Tyce. Tuesday night was a big night.
Yeah, it was a great night.
It was a great night. Did you enjoy it?
I had a lovely time. The judges were amazing. Pitch competition was so fun and a great experience to get up on stage and keep practicing the pitch.
So Tyce was the first winner of our Koyos Collective Pitch Showcase. It's amazing to see how that all came together. There's some really wonderful judges that were there. And, it was presented by Seed Eagles, support from JP Morgan Innovation Economy. We utilized our capabilities to get you a little trophy. That was really all the only prize of the event.
Fancy, very nice.
What have you done with the trophy?
I think it's on my bedroom dresser right now.
Very nice, very nice. That's exactly where it should be.
So yeah, Tyce, can you give a bit more of a high level of understanding of what Ulama is for the people that don't know, and how your background fits into this startup?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ulama is software for architects so that they can pre-check their designs against the building codes. These are the thousands and thousands of pages of technical requirements about how to build a building. They use our software to pre-check before they even submit it to governments for approval. And that can shave months off the project approval timeline. Has really major impacts for the business operations of architects and for their clients that hire them, the developers, building owners. My background's an urban planner. I was using data science, data engineering on some of the most complex urban development problems in the New York City area. And then I was head of product at a startup that was using augmented reality for visualizing future construction in buildings, leveraging permit data for that. So I know permits inside and out now.
So you're using, you made some noise in the tech sphere with our pitch showcase. Can you give us a little more insight on how AI is and augmented reality is used in your product?
Yeah, so we are using AI in a couple of ways. The first is speeding up the pace at which we translate the building code text into actual software code, geometric analysis rules that's applied to the architect's design. So we take all that text and it has all the rules sort of embedded in it. And we use AI to then translate that into the code that we analyze the designs with. The other thing that we do is we go through the entire 3D building model that the architect has created, and we label every single object in that building. We call it our normalized name label. Just so that our rules can then be applied to that 3D building model accurately. We need to know what's in their building models, and they may or may not have named everything consistently. It varies from firm to firm, so that's our way of standardizing their models.
Well, they may not have named everything consistently.
And I would go so far as to say they for sure have not named everything consistently.
Oh my goodness.
Especially from firm to firm. It's totally different.
Wow. Okay. So I'm thinking you probably saw as an urban planner that there were so many issues in this industry, right? Was there a specific moment that you said, hey, permitting is broken?
Yeah, I was on projects all the time where we'd be right in the pace of getting things done. And then all of a sudden it'd say, we're done on this project. TBD when we're going to pick it up again. And if I asked why, 9 out of 10 times it was permitting. So the client had run into some permitting issues. We'd have to then shuffle to get assigned to some new project to work on. And this would happen time after time. It's the same story in architecture. They're running into the same issues there.
Well,
And how did you find the initial idea of creating Ulama in terms of incorporating tech with this pain point that you identified?
Yeah, so like I said, the startup I was at prior to Ulama as head of product, we were using permit data from cities to generate citywide augmented reality layers. And we would take from that permit data would only have very coarse information about the project that was approved. It would be like building height, number of floors, building type. We had to make a bunch of guesses about what that building would look like. So we could only do these estimates. And we were thinking, well, how do we get cities to actually have the 3D building model? Like, what's the incentive to get them to have that so that we can then do citywide AR layers? And a couple rabbit holes around 3D-based permitting, 3D model-based permitting. I discovered that people have been talking about this for decades, basically since we started digitizing construction. And it's only now with a confluence of different technologies. Obviously, the LLMs for being able to parse the regulations, but the adoption of 3D building modeling in the industry is at a point now that this sort of 3D based project delivery and permitting is now finally possible.
So how does Ulama actually work? Feel free to be a bit technical for the technical founders in the audience.
Yeah. So, like I said, the first thing we do is we go through and we label all of the objects with a normalized name. And then the architect will sync that 3D model to our web application. And it's just a one-click sync. And once it's on our web application, they select the project location that they're in to pull up the geographic specific rules. Codes vary from city to city, from state to state. So once they've selected the location, we can apply the right rules. And then they choose which code rule set that they want to use. There's plumbing, fire, electrical, accessibility. They may or may not want to run all of those at once or just a few of those. It's up to them to choose what they want to analyze. So one click button to analyze, and then we give them feedback in the web app. Both we mark up the actual building model with visual cues, and then we tell them for every rule what the rule is, if there's a violation, what that violation is. So maybe it's, if it's too close, we give them the exact measurement of why it's too close, and then we make a suggestion on how they can fix it.
And do you have a specific user demographic? Are you catering towards architects? Are you catering towards contractors, government entities? And how do you juggle the needs of all these different parties?
Yeah, so we interface with all those parties. We primarily sell to architecture firms. They're the ones really responsible for making sure these designs are code compliant. Contractors, when they are working on more complex development, they'll get a set of drawings from the architect, and they have to often rebuild a 3D building model. Yeah. So they still need to make sure that's code compliant. So sometimes we do work with contractors. And on the government side, we work with individual cities and locations to get their, 80% of the rules or 20% of the rules that give them 80% of their headaches, get their code checklists, and then the reports that we generate for the architecture firms or the contractors to submit with the designs, we tailor that for individual cities. So we don't sell the cities, but we do partner with them to make sure what we send them is what they need.
So in your conversations with cities, what is the most significant regulatory challenge that you've hit so far?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we've hit regulatory challenges per se. The biggest challenge is that building code has a lot of interpretability, meaning there's rules that are listed, but they're not always black and white on what they mean. And both within government and then within the private sector architects, everyone may have slightly different interpretations of what this rule actually means and how it's applied to a building. So having those conversations with the local building departments it's challenging to get everyone on the same page. But once we do, we're actually helping to bridge one of the biggest sources of delays in the code review process.
So do you ever use like legal services to get ahead then, like to try to find like a proper interpretation, right? Like, I mean, you are just getting started, early stage startup, right? But I could see like as you grow older, right? Like could be a way of differentiation, right? Is like, not only do we have the best software, but we actually understand the law or the building code better than anybody else does.
Yeah, so it's kind of like bumping up against being a tech-enabled services company. It's something we're definitely thinking about. I know at a minimum, we're going to be hiring building code specialists to be on staff, reviewing the output of the rules that we're creating to make sure, yes, like we've had experts validate these rules that we're putting out into the world. And that could also lead to having more services around the sort of building code expertise. We're still early enough. We're not totally sure on that, but suffice to say, we are going to have people with the expertise around the regulations on staff working with us.
I have a personal story. We're in FIDA here. I used to live facing a building, an infamous building down here in Seaport, near Water Street. And there's a building that's empty, half constructed down on Water Street. And apparently they're going through legal troubles. Apparently the building is leaning 5 degrees to one direction.
I think I did remember this, yeah.
So with Ulama, if you were utilizing that before they started building that, how would you have prevented that error, the architect?
I don't know entirely how that error came to be. I'm guessing that's maybe more of a structural engineering issue, and we don't do structural engineering today. There's lots of really incredible companies out there doing the structural part of this.
Right.
It requires a lot more like load calculations,
Right.
the sort of like buildings performance from a structural standpoint. Our focus is a lot more around things like the ingress and egress from building, like coming in and out, making sure the entrances are the right width given like the size of the building and the use of the different rooms. We do accessibility. We do fire checks for like, are there enough sprinkler heads given again the size of the building? So I don't know if we would have helped with that one, but
Gotcha.
as we build out more, that could be on our roadmap too.
Okay, and to piggyback on that, down the line, you guys are just getting started. Down the line, where do you see your Ulama expanding to?
There's a couple directions that we want to expand. The first is to really enable permitting to be an exclusively 3D model based phenomenon. So right now, how it works is that architects are designing in 3D building models, and then they're creating 2D plans, drawing sets from that 3D building model. And that's what's the actual source of truth for the project that gets submitted to the government. What we want to unlock is the ability to have your 3D building model, and that's what you submit to the government for review. The 3D building model is fundamentally a database about the project. It's should be the source of truth for everything throughout the construction life cycle. So sort of along one axis, we want to make the 3D building model, or excuse me, the permitting process 3D based project delivery. But then we also want to extend that down the construction life cycle so that this dream of a fully connected construction process can finally be realized. But it hasn't been because right from the get-go in pre-construction and permitting, you've already not established this model as being the definitive place to look for information.
Tyce, you're trying to do something very difficult, which is to get the government to move with speed, or get any government to move with speed, especially at the local level. I just would like to ask, do you think that bureaucracy stifles innovation? To what extent have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's just like within private sector, there's people who are not going to be like, how do I, optimize this? But we see time and time again that folks in local government really want to have the best services possible. And they're just not set up to have the sort of incentives to bring on innovation quickly. It's not that they don't want to, but they're just constrained in like the nature of local government setups. And so I think it's really incumbent upon the tech community to provide these services. We're not the only ones trying to do something GovTech adjacent. We're not. I wouldn't call us GovTech because we're not selling to government directly. Yeah, maybe someday. But yeah, I think there's a huge role for tech startups to address the needs that government is just not set up to do well on their own. And then the government agencies become more like project managers for those and the implementers of that technology.
Yeah, restructuring government efficiency perhaps is sometimes about the form factor, right? Rather than like the actual products, right? I like how you said the project manager, government taking on a different role there. It's very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw in the news pretty recently, one of the Doge software engineers wrote this like blog post or something about their experience in Doge. And they said they were just struck by how efficient government actually is. It's like, yeah, these government employees are if you've not been around government, you're like, oh, whatever, they are doing the work. Like, no, they really, by and large, care about their jobs and want to do the best job they can. And you see that in people's performance. It's just they don't have the incentive structure to bring in tech, to try new things and experiment, even when they want to.
Yeah, of course. And, a lot of these engineers, especially, they are taking pay cuts to work for federal government.
Yeah.
I guess just piggybacking off of that, could you consider, we spoke a lot about local code today. I know that building codes typically are local. It's more of a local government, municipal responsibility. But there are certainly regulations at the state and federal level. Could you see Ulama seeking to work with codes that are at the state and federal level?
Yeah, so the building codes that we work with are predominantly set at states. New York City, where we're at, is kind of an outlier in having such a sort of divergence from the state's code for New York State. But for building code, it is primarily state-based in all 50 states. And then there's federal guidelines around building for federally funded projects. We definitely want to move into that space as well.
And if Ulama is going to work and on work exactly how you envisioned it down the line, what would you envision the permitting process down the line in 5 years, and what's the long-term vision for Ulama?
In my fever dreams that I have on how permitting ought to be, teams are seamlessly on the private sector side able to review their code on demand whenever they want, and then seamlessly sync that to the government reviewers with their own software, and then both of them can collaborate on the same platform to leave comments, have this real-time sort of feedback with each other, and get these projects approved in days, same day, maybe, instead of the on average 5 months that it takes right now.
Okay, that was pretty succinct, but I'm going to ask you to be a bit more succinct. Could you try to pitch Ulama in 10 seconds?
Sure. We make software for architects to pre-check their designs against the building codes before they even submit them to government for approval.
Well, that was even shorter than I expected it to be.
I got you.
So I guess, thinking about cities, right? This is a bit of a fun question. If a city was a founder, we talked about the role of cities, the role of local government here. You mentioned that perhaps a local government could be a project manager. But I have to ask, if a city was a founder, what type of founder would the city be?
Oh my gosh. Certainly a very cautious founder. As a founder, I don't know how successful they'd be because very risk averse. But what they did deliver is going to be thoroughly vetted. It might not have the best user experience, but for whatever sort of project requirements they set out, it's gonna meet those.
Awesome.
And for Tyce, on more than just Ulama, what do you want your personal legacy to be beyond your startup, your personal goals?
Yeah.
What do you want people to remember Tyce by?
I got into urban planning to make our communities more sustainable and more connected, just like person to person. I got kind of my crunchy hippie radicalized in college, riding my bike around the town I was going to college in, and realizing this is how our community should be designed, around walking, biking, transit. We should have this density in our communities. So that's why I got into urban planning, so to make our communities better. And I got really interested in using technology to help solve those issues. And my sort of whole professional journey has brought me here to this point with Ulama, where it feels like finally I can have this major impact on the shape of our communities. Because by shortening the permit timelines, reducing project costs, we're unlocking the ability to finally build the affordable housing that we desperately need in this country. We are 7 million housing units short of where we need to be for a sustainable housing stock. Like, that's bonkers. That's just in the US. Like, there's housing shortages in most of the developing countries in the world. We're also not building our buildings sustainably. So the Department of Energy estimates that over the next 30 years, we're going to emit 2 billion metric tons of carbon just from buildings that are non-compliant with energy code as it's written today. Like, that's bonkers. What are we doing, y'all? We need the ability to check these designs to make sure that they're energy code compliant before they get built. And then as well, we need to ensure that as they're being built, they're still meeting that design requirement for energy code. So, with Ulama, we have the ability to make major impacts on housing, on climate, and we couldn't be more excited to shape our communities for the better.
Tyce, that was amazing. I mean, honestly, that was incredible. We do like a pitch lecture series, basically at like universities on here at Pace and at NYU, and we take clips from the podcast. That encapsulates everything that we want to hear. No, because like you outlined just such an important, and it's not just a regulatory problem, right? I think that the word regulatory actually does it a disservice, right? It's a societal problem generally. It's a problem for us as earthlings broadly, right? Like relating it to sustainability and generally the housing crisis. I could see why you won the pitch showcase specifically from that. And I'm excited to continue to be in touch with you. I think it's time to close up a bit on this wonderful conversation. This is not going to be the last time, but it is New York Tech Week. So did want you to, let us know how your New York Tech Week has been generally, what your thoughts have been on how it's been running, met any cool people.
Yeah. So I posted, someone on LinkedIn was like, basically more or less, don't go to Tech Week events unless you're like getting something out of them. And without having first read that was definitely my approach this Tech Week. Did your all's pitch event, another one yesterday at New Lab, this recording, and then a breakfast because I gotta eat. But other than that, like no Tech Week events, just heads down building, getting things off the ground. So that being said, the first Tech Week I went to as early founder, I was going to all the events. I was like, I was here, I was there.
Yeah.
Not sustainable. So especially when you've got a business that you have to run. So
Going with purpose.
Yeah. Tactical Tech Week, Tech Week attendance is key.
So if you could sum up your Tech Week so far in one word, what would it be? And maybe describe it. Why?
Yeah, maybe tactical. Just finding the places where I can get the most value for the startup, get our face out there, get in front of investors. We're raising an angel round right now, so just being out and about, but in this way of connecting with investors or potential customers. There was not a Tech Week specific event, but there's another architecture startup, not competitor, just like they do a new design tool for architects. They had a big launch event, so I was there like talking to architects, drumming up customers. So just being super tactical with your time. You just have to as a founder.
And for founders that want to potentially start their own company within this space that you're in, pairing the intersection of AI and urban planning, architecture, what advice do you have for those companies or founders?
Think really hard if you want to be a startup founder. It is a hard road to hoe, and it looks real sexy and glamorous, and man, it is just a bunch of late nights grinding. So yeah, really, really think hard of like, is this really the path I want to take? Because you're going to be on it for years even if it goes well. That being said, though, I think there's so much opportunity in what we call AEC, architecture, engineering, construction space. Because one, the primary data about these projects is very proprietary. It's essentially locked up in these firms from all their design work. It's not something the AI models have really trained on because it's just not out there publicly. So there's a ton of opportunity there to work with these firms as good partners. That IP for them, their intellectual property around their designs is what helps differentiate them. So you have to be extremely careful with that. But if you can build those partnerships, there's tremendous value for them and then for you as a founder. So I couldn't even begin to list all the value propositions that need fixing in AEC, but if you're a founder with a passion for making better cities, like now's the time, get after it.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Tyce. Your Tech Week has been tactical. The way that you're building your company is tactical. And I appreciate the way that you see the world. We're going to keep in touch with regard to everything related to Ulama. You are our inaugural pitch showcase champion. You have the trophy to prove it. Thank you for your time today, Tyce. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. And looking forward to staying connected.
If you have anybody to shout out or someone to reference or mention, where can people find you online?
Yeah, we're primarily on LinkedIn. Our company page is Ulama. You can find me, Tyce, Tyce. I'll probably be one of the first ones. There's not a lot of Tyces out there. And, for the pitch event, really want to shout out JP Morgan Startup Banking. They've been tremendous partners. They actually connected me with you guys for this. So just phenomenal support as partners.
Yep. Shout out Norma Padron, PhD.
Yeah.
She has been.
Thanks, Norma.
She's been an incredible help and support, and our relationship with them is just getting started, as is yours. So I'm confident that there will be other JP, Koreos Collective, Ulama collaborations in the future, and I'm stoked.
Let's go.
Awesome.
All right.